Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report here from Commodity Classic. We talked about wheat. That's what we ended with in our last segment. Okay, so let's talk about acreage. Just a couple weeks away from this acreage report. Now seeing what the price movement that we've had. What do you think the trade is expecting when it comes to acres this year?
Well, I think they're expecting big corn acreage, and I think that's one of the things that's weighing on the corn market, as well as the pressure that we've seen in the wheat market. Yeah, it seems to me the market's getting more comfortable with 92 to 94 million acres of corn. Whether we get that or not, I'm not so sure. You know, there's a lot of moving parts to that. Corn's had a big break. That isn't really stimulating, a lot of interest in planting extra acres. And the South, where we could see some swing acres, has been a little bit wet and expected to be wet clear into the end of March here. So, Mother Nature's going to have the final say, but I think the corn market's expecting a large number.
Do you think we're losing any cotton acres, Chip, in some of those areas where they are so dry, and looking at sorghum and some of these other crops as a potential right now?
Yeah, there was an estimate out here a few weeks ago by the Cotton Council, and expected to be 1.5 million less acres of cotton planted this spring.
All right, so when you think about that and you think about what the trade is expecting at this point, what type of fireworks could we possibly see after this prospective plantings report comes out at the end of the month, Mike?
Well, in the last several years, it hasn't been uncommon to see the market begin a nice rally on the backside of a plantings report. But as we've talked about, the acres seem to be kind of in the works. If you go back to last fall, they called 92. This Ag Outlook Forum pegged it at about 91. And so when you look at where the mindset is, we expect to see that come into play. And as you look at the demand, which has been somewhat cannibalized by the higher prices over the course of the last couple of years, we're not looking for as big of a push on price as we come out of the backside. And so I think there's a lot of people that are hoping for that rally, but the fireworks could be that release of hope back into the market, which could cause more pressure back to prices in early April.
Arlan, when you look at these cattle prices, I mean, my goodness, the bull run that we've seen, new contract highs. I mean, Arlan, has this market risen faster than you expected? And does that change your outlook for, the thought that we could see cattle prices possibly top out at that Q4 timeframe?
Yeah, we saw the supply start to tighten a little bit quicker than what we expected here in the first quarter coming out of the Christmas break. The numbers of cattle, weather was a part of that as well, with some of the winter storms taking some weight off of cattle. Means we had to hold back some cattle. The carcass weights dropped off. So the overall beef production dropped faster than what was anticipated, tightening things up. Now we've adjusted a little bit to that. I anticipate there will be some corrections, but the longer-term trend is still to continue to tighten things up. The main question going forward is going to be, how healthy is the economy going to be? What's the confidence of the consumer going to be? How much is the consumer going to be willing to pay? Because the supplies are going to be tight. And once we really start turning this cow herd around and start holding back the heifers, we're going to tighten it up even more.
Chip, any signs that we are seeing demand wane?
Well, we've had a pretty poor export sales report the last 2 weeks in the beef, and so that's a concern. We can see some volatility in those reports. 1 week poor performance, is acceptable. Now 2 in a row. In fact, I think it was the lowest number we've seen in over a year, and that's a little bit concerning because prices have risen, and that is a definite concern, not only domestically, like Arlan said, with the consumer here, but if our exports are slowing, that could be the first sign of demand rationing.
Mike, real quick, what is your forecast for milk prices? We saw those DMC payments, those triggered for the first time this year. What is your outlook for milk?
It stacks up on what we've been talking about across the cattle space. If you look at some of the most recent inventory numbers around things like mozzarella, for example, we've watched as mozzarella inventories have increased, which is generally a very quick look inside of how people are ordering food into the home. A lot of pizza carries a lot of mozzarella, and if people aren't buying pizzas, they're not getting the mozz, and if inventories start rising, it's a pretty good indicator that they're pulling their consumption dollars back into the home and away from those outside sources, and that takes a big cut out of dairy values because we depend on people to go out to eat to move a lot of extra dairy solids.
Mike, Chip, Arlan, thank you so much for joining us. I know it was a hard decision when I asked you to travel down to Orlando for Commodity Classic, but I appreciate you guys sacrificing and making that trip. Thank you, guys. All right, we need to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with much more with U.S. Farm Report here from Commodity Classic.
Get in the game and be part of the 2023 Bracket Busters Challenge presented by Case IH. It's farmer versus farmer for a chance to win the $1,000 top prize. Go to agweb.com to fill out your bracket once teams are selected on Sunday, March 12th.